What is going on, Babylonians? It's me, Songs of Rage, back with another video to be able to bring to you, and today we are going to be covering our first video when it comes to the First Descendant beta release, and this one's going to be a guide all about Ajax, and I've been having a lot of fun. I've managed to get Ajax up to max level of level 40, been able to do a couple of those raid bosses that actually exist in the game, and I've had a lot of fun with Ajax, and I don't see anyone really kind of coming close to be able to take my love away from him. Now, before we get any further into the guide, make sure you have dropped a like and a subscribe. It really does help the channel out, and it definitely bring you more up to date with any more guides that we will be bringing for the First Descendant, which definitely want to be keeping an eye out for. We are also partnered with Play Ammo, your one-stop shop for your ultimate energy needs. Make sure you head over there and use code BABBLE to be able to get yourself a nice juicy 10% off of your order, and with all that out the way, let's get right into it. Alright, so first and foremost, we do need to cover what Ajax's role exists in this game, and Ajax is primarily a tanky character, is the bruiser, the one that's designed to be able to get into the thick of everything, to be able to take all the flak and then be able to throw that straight back at the enemy's face. Now, all of his kit is designed around that fact as well, and we also have an enhancement mode, which happens when we take enough damage to be able to trigger additional effects on top of what we already do. So if we have a quick look into the kit when it comes to him, so you can see some of these nice stats. Definitely want to be able to focus on this max HP and this defense, because these are going to be the main stats that you want to be able to grind yourself into, which you can see that I've gone for as much defense as possible and much HP. I would like a max defense one in here, but this is the best one I've got so far, so we've gone for HP. But if we have a look into our Descendant, now you can see these stunning images. I've got to give props to Nexum for these, because these animations that are in the background are absolutely top notch, and it goes for every single one that's across the list there. But what we're looking at is when we come to Ajax, we've got this nice little kind of like chart. It gives us an idea of what his primary kit is all around and what his basic stats are, with defense and max shield, max HP, max HP, and shield recovery outside of combat. But what we're really interested in is being able to look at the skills and how all of this is going to fare into combat. So the first and foremost, the first skill that you do get is going to be the reverse door. Now, this reverse door is at level 4 on my side, so your stats may differ a little bit as you start out with Ajax to be able to grind a few levels to be able to get these a bit stronger. So level 4 reverse door is a cost of 24 MP, which you do have when we look at here. So max MP is currently 110 without going into any kind of additional stats. But 24 MP, you get a cooldown of 32 seconds, which is kind of on the long side. You can get these down a little bit more, but I find that this is a very nice, healthy option to be able to block enough damage, and I don't feel like it needs to be less than this. I feel like it's plenty fine as it is. So the skill description is create a barrier for 25 seconds. This barrier has defense equivalent to Ajax's defense times 100%, and a HP equivalent to a max HP times 160%. When hit by an enemy projectile, barrier accumulates void energy equivalent to the inflicted damage times 700%. Using enhanced skill adds the enhancement effect, and when this turn, you'll notice this in the bottom of your screen when the skills turn blue, and this means that they've become a bit more powered up. They have additional effects, and what this means is when the enhanced barrier gets hit, it reflects damage equivalent to 30% of Ajax's defense. Now, you can already see that having high defense on this character is going to be the main way to be able to go. Not only is it going to be able to give you some nice survivability options, it's also going to be able to impact on the damage that you're going to be dealing out, and especially when it comes to the enhanced version of your skills. Now, we also want to be able to get as much defense and as much HP as possible, because this also affects how long these barriers stay up for. So having 100% of our standard defense as Ajax is very, very important, and we do also go into that with our guns as well, but this isn't a build video. This is just purely to be able to show off what Ajax is very good at. And we also want to be able to get our HP as high as possible, because 160% of our total HP is going to go into our barrier, which means that they're able to stay up for even longer to be able to reflect all that nice damage. Now, going from there, we do also have Void Walk. Now, Void Walk is definitely one of my favourite abilities in the whole game, and I've got this on a cost of 25 and a cooldown of 12 seconds. Now, the reason why this is so fun, and we'll get into the tips and tricks a little bit later on into the video, is this is a great movement mechanic, and it's also great for dealing a lot of damage as well, especially if you do put this into skill attack, but I haven't. I've used this purely as a way to be able to get around the battlefield. So when hitting the ground after a jump, it inflicts damage within within 9-meter radius around Ajax, and with skill attack times 69% damage and stuns them, nice, and using enhanced skill adds an enhancement effect. So what this allows us to be able to do is be able to stun enemies that when we land around them in the first place, and then when we use the enhancement effect we also gain a current shield by our max shield of 40% for 16 seconds. So this will just give us a nice flat 40% of our shield back just from being hit, and it gives us a very nice survivability, gives us a way to be able to get out of danger, and it's also a great way to be able to start off fights as well, especially with the stun, so you can get up nice and close, inflict a lot of damage, and then as soon as you've taken quite a bit of damage you can jump back out again, and because you've taken all that damage you've got the enhanced version which gives you then some of your shield back. I'm a massive fan of how this skill works, and once again we'll cover the tips in a short while as to how you can use this very effectively. But what we're going to do is going to move on to the next skill, and this is going to be Expulsion. Now Expulsion has a cost of 30, cooldown of 10 seconds, so relatively quick, and what this means is it strikes nearby enemies within a 5-meter radius with a skill attack of 70% damage and also applies knockback. Using the enhanced skill also adds an enhancement effect, so once again just like all the others. And what this means is knockback, where if we go into details, pushes back small, medium and large enemies by 5, 4 and 3 meters respectively, and you can use this on certain levels to be able to push them off the world, and this will allow you to be able to get really quick kills. It also gives you a nice little breather, but what I will notice is that when it comes to the radius side of things, that your leap will deal damage within 9 meters, but this will only allow it to be able to within 5 meters, so just keep that in mind that if you do land and you do plan on using this as like a really nice quick kind of detonate ability, that you won't hit all the enemies that you've just hit with your leap because they will be outside the radius. Now with the enhancement effect, what this does is it increases the effect range to 7 meters, so still doesn't match that of the 9 meters that the leap can do, and for 16 seconds your current shield is increased by 40% of your max shield again. So similar to how we had it with the leap, we also get 40% of our shield back if we do use this when we go by. So you can use these as a way to be able to keep yourself alive, keep yourself in the fight. So if you don't plan on leaping away, you can use this one instead, but then you can use the leap one to be able to get yourself behind some nice cover. And then lastly, in terms of the skills that you can use, we have Hypercube. Hypercube is one of the best looking skills that exists in this game, just for that purely start animation where it just kind of flows here, there and everywhere. But what makes Hypercube so good is the fact that it works exactly like the wall barrier does, but this time it kind of does it in a circular motion around yourself, and you can use this to be able to defend points really, really well. So what this does is it creates a dome-shaped barrier for 25 seconds. The barrier has defense equivalent to Ajax's defense by 100% and HP equivalent to max HP by 160, so exactly the same as the barrier, and when it's hit by an enemy projectile, barrier accumulates void energy equivalent to increased damage times 700%. Using the enhanced skill, it adds the additional enhancement effect, where once again, when the barrier is hit, it reflects damage equivalent to 30% of Ajax's defense. So you can see that we have two abilities that allow us to be able to stack up our passive skill, which we will be covering very, very shortly. But when it uses the barriers, just know that when the barriers are hit, you're accumulating all that stored up energy, ready to be able to use your enhanced versions on your next ability. So what I like to do, and once again I will cover this a little bit more in depth with the tips and tricks, is to be able to use the reverse door, put that right in front of myself, absorb a few hits, and then use the Hypercube to be able to, because it covers a much wider area, to be able to use that to be able to send back all the projectiles that will be coming my way. I can then also use that instead the enhancement effect to be able to activate my other two abilities as well. But Hypercube by itself, especially when it comes to like the endless waves and all that, is a really good skill to be able to defend objectives because it stops damage getting through, but it also takes out some of the waves as well, and especially even more when you stack up all your defense as well to be able to get the enhanced version to be able to deal all that damage. Now lastly, we do need to cover the passive skill, and the passive skill is called Void Vault. What this does is it accumulates void energy equivalent to 500% of the damage taken from the enemy. Your attack is increased by 10%, 20% and 30% when void energy reaches 30%, 60% and 100%. Upon reaching 100% void energy, it consumes 50% of that to be able to use enhanced skills, and when you're outside of combat, void energy decreases by 10% of max storage every 1 second. So the idea is that when you're using your special ability here, that you want to be able to be in that enhanced state, When you're in that enhanced state, not only does it boost up all your abilities, it boosts up all your attack, which you will be using with your guns as well, and that allows you to be able to melt enemies even faster. So the idea is to be able to get in there, get hit as much as possible, use your barriers to be able to store up the energy as quickly as possible as well, and then just absolutely melt everything in front of you. And it works so well, and I really am a big fan of all this kit. As for how I like to build my Ajax, I kind of primarily like to use the Storm rune, and I also like to go in really hard into Descendant runes. Now, when we look into this first page here, I do primarily use my SMG. I do think that my SMG is really good. I am looking for a better one because this is only level 35 compared to level 40 I'm currently standing on, so I know that this can get a little bit stronger, but I am very happy with how this currently performs. And it also, because we are going into close range damage most of the time using things like our leap, we want something that fires quickly, that is able to do a lot of burst damage, and I do think that the SMG or shotguns are really good ways to be able to do so. When it comes to the other things, so like the gyros, the sensors, the coils and the memories, you do want to stack as much defense as possible. The reason why is you want to be able to get this as high as possible right here, and then that means that it's going to impact all of the stats that you're going to have when it comes to your barriers, so they last longer, but they also deal more damage when they're enhanced as well. It allows you to be able to stay in the fight a little bit longer. It allows you to be able to run around, be that team medic that can pick people up, especially in those instant fights, when some of those white mechanics are really nasty, so yeah, you just got to be careful of those, but you can tank as much as possible, and you can then go straight back in and just be able to pick your teammates up when they do fall down. Other things to note is that when you do go to the instance fights and the raid battles, your shields can reflect some but not all projectiles back at the boss, and that's a really good way to be able to help with those chip damage, to be able to take those down a little bit quicker. So Ajax, while he doesn't have much on the surface to be able to deal damage to the raid bosses, what they can do is be able to reflect all those projectiles straight back at the boss as well. So that's really helpful and really useful. As for runes, like I said, you can go for any of these. Feel free to choose any kind of weapon that you do find is more useful for yourself. Like, this isn't a proper build, so I'm not going to tell you which one is best for you. You choose that part yourself. But what I will say is, when we go to the Descendant runes, the best ones to be able to go for are going to be things to be able to stack up your defense as well as your max HP. Now, the main one that I have been trying to level up as much as possible is this better defense, which gives you max HP, and there's no downside to it whatsoever. The best part about it is because we do have this node here. What this seems to do is cut your rune cost in half. So that means that instead of it costing 11, which, if I can find it again, there it is. So instead of it costing 11, it now costs 6. So it allows me to be able to have a little bit more kind of like feasibility when it comes to everything else in here, and I've got more space to be able to use. On top of that, I also do go for shield conversion as well. I do think this is really good because this takes away your max shield, which we don't necessarily use too much. We can easily get our shield back, but our defense and our HP is the main reason for this build. So you want to be able to stack that up as much as possible for your defense, and then combine that with everything else that you're going to be throwing in there. Your defense is going to be skyrocketing to some really nice levels. The other one that I will point out, and I think this is really good, when it comes to like weapons and all that, the best one to be able to grab yourself is going to be a Storm Defense Expert. Obviously, Storm is the type of gun, so you can get it for other things as well. But because I'm using Storm guns when it comes to my submachine gun, what I do grab is this one. So on defeating an enemy, my defense gets 145% for 3 seconds, and this effect stacks up to 2 times, so I can go up to 200 plus 290% defense, which when I've killed a couple of enemies and then throw out my ability, it allows it to be able to stay in the fight a little bit longer, and also absorbs more, and then deals more damage when it gets reflected as well. So it's got some really nice synergy there as well. So let's get into some general tips, some things that I've found that has been very useful in all my time that I've been playing Ajax. And the first and foremost I definitely want to be able to cover is when using Void Walk, you can gain extra height and distance by jumping just before using the ability. The extra momentum seems to be gained from the jump and allows you to be able to engage enemies from a larger distance away, or it helps you to be able to get away that much easier as well. The best part also is if you look up as well, it seems to follow a trajectory or a leap from where you aim your cursor, so make sure when you do your jump you look straight up as well. Well, not necessarily straight up, like 45-degree angle, and that maximizes the amount of distance that you will be able to cover and makes a really fun stomp as well. It gives it a little bit more of a satisfying feel as well. Also remember that you don't have to physically take the damage to your own character to be able to store void energy. Hits on either of your barriers will also grant you that energy, so plant them down and watch your damage ramp up. As a third tip, you don't always need to use an enhanced skill when it's ready to proc, because keeping that stored energy increases your Descendant's attack stat by up to 30% when it's full. Now, so using an ability will drop you back down all the way to 10%, which can be a big factor, especially in those instant fights that you do have when it comes to the raid bosses. Barriers also feed off your HP and your defense stats to be able to block damage, so these are going to be your main focuses when it comes to building up Ajax. Everything else doesn't really matter too much, but when it comes to HP and defense, this gives you the longest lasting barriers, and it allows you to be able to give you that sustainability, that survivability when it comes to all your fights, and allows you to be able to take advantage of your own kind of like intrinsic ability to be able to deal even more damage and dish it out. Also, deploying shields makes you the perfect medic if a person is in down but not out stage, as you can cover your own resurrection. What you can do is use this to limit the damage you would take by getting them back up into the fight, and it also helps to take away a little bit of that stagger that you will be facing, and it ensures that that resurrection will get off, and it allows you to be able to get that player back into the fight much easier. On top of that, it also doubles as being able to give them a little bit of a barrier, a little bit of a safety cushion in case attacks are being focused on you, so once you do pick them back up, they won't be instantly falling straight back down. And lastly, Ajax is the absolute king at endless survival, as your barriers will be reflecting damage back and also protecting the objective at the exact same time, and it's great for fast clears and minimal damage sustained. What I will say is that a very close second probably is Bunny, due to the fact of how fast they can run, and they can use some of their abilities to be able to do a lot of like AoE damage along a massive line of enemies in the first place. So a perfect tandem. What Ajax is your perfect defense. You're being able to keep the objective going, to be able to progress further into those rounds and give a little bit of a breathing space for your other characters, whereas Bunny is going to be a little bit more focused on the offensive side, the little bit of nuking and being able to go DPS. And there you go, that is everything I've currently learned when it comes to Ajax, and once we do have the full game and we get everything in the full build, I will be diving a little bit more into their abilities, and I want to be able to see if there's some really nice combinations when it comes to other characters or other descendants that maybe we just haven't really thought about before now. Definitely one that I have seen so far is Lepic, and Lepic is able to use their gravity grenade to be able to bring enemies into a close range, so you can use your gravity leap or your stomp to be able to do a massive amount of damage. And you know that helps you to be able to group enemies up in the first place to be able to maximize the amount of DPS you can do as Ajax. But anyway, that's a video for another time. Massive thank you to everyone that's made this far into the video. Let me know in the comment section down below, what's your favorite part about Ajax? Is it something I haven't already covered, or did any of these points help you out in the future? Massive thank you to the Babylonian family, as always, for their continued support. Their names appear at the end of every single one of our videos. And did you know that we do have a Discord server, and we would love to be able to see you over there to be able to discuss everything that is the First Descendant over there. And with all that out the way, that just leaves me to say, keep yourself safe, keep yourselves well, and I'll see you all on our next video.